Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Thank you for listening, and I would love it if you would subscribe. Pistons lost another one, 8 in a row, I think, 106 to 91. So 91 is the lowest that we've scored all year, and if you look at the team that we have out there on the court, you wouldn't be surprised, but because we got a lot of guys that are sub-NBA players. But Cade was spectacular tonight. Cade scored 32 points. So it's the seventh time just since the All-Star break, which hasn't been that many games, where he's scored 27 or more. So he's been really cooking. His knee slowed him down a little bit. I was glad he played tonight. He wants to play. He wants to try to help his team win, but he had a real good game. And he had Jaden McDaniels guarding him, and McDaniels is the real deal, man. He is 6'10". He's like an all-defensive type player. He's the guy that I said the Pistons need a guy just like him. He had 20 tonight, and he made 3 out of 7 threes. So he's a prototypical guy, and a lot of you probably haven't heard of him because he plays in the Western Conference, but he just signed for a lot of money, and he only averages like 10 or 12 points, but he shoots the three really well, and he's long and skinny, but he can really play defense, and Cade still cooked him. So big game Wednesday, Friday we play the Wiz. So the Wiz had won about 3 in a row, the Wizards, and they lost tonight in overtime, so to the Nets. So that would have been a big win if they would have won that game. So again, I wouldn't mind if we finish with the worst record. I want us to win games, but I still wouldn't hurt, because again, it can make a difference in the draft order, and not that it matters that much this year with the draft order, but as long as we're this bad, why not? But we can, we'll see what happens. It'll be very interesting to see how many players we play. Again, they said Fontecchio and Grimes were going to come back this week. Well, this week, so they're not coming back yet. So we'll see what happens in that game. But tonight, so the Pistons were right in there with the Wolves, who are one of the top 4 teams. They're all bunched together, the top 4 teams in the West, and the Timberwolves are one of them. But it was 68-66 with a little over like 3.5 minutes left in the third quarter, and Cade checked out, and we got blitzed like 19-2 when Cade was out. So game was over. So anyway, it was, a lot of guys got to play. But it's so much more fun when Cade plays, and especially when he plays well. And it's so much more fun when Duren plays, and he had a good solid game. Ivey did not play tonight, so we're going to talk about Jaden Ivey a bunch today. So Ivey's been struggling, no doubt about it. He's been real bad. But I'm going to talk to you today about a bunch of players all over the NBA, young players who I've seen go up and down. Lots of guys go up and down. We really zero in on our team, even team-wise. Of course, a lot of teams go up and down dramatically during the course of a season, but not us. We've stayed down all the season. But a lot of players that are, especially the young players over the last couple of years, I've really paid attention. And like Jalen Suggs. So Jalen Suggs, everybody loves him all of a sudden. So he was like a bust, his rookie year. So he averaged 27 minutes, but he shot 36% from the floor and 21% on threes his rookie year. His second year, he played only 23 minutes, shot 42% from the floor and 33% on threes. And this year, they have so many guards, he's playing great, and he's playing 27 minutes, but he's shooting 46% from the floor and 40% on threes. So players go just up and down, and during seasons, or from season to season, or within a season, I see players that go way up and way down. And so for guys like Ivey to struggle and have a real, to say he's just inconsistent, he's streaky. I've heard a lot of people use those terms, and it's true, but I think this last streak is mental, and I think part of it is even because Cade's been out, and we don't have any players. We're playing tonight. We played 2 of our top 7 players, but Ivey was playing with none of our top 7 players. I mean, he was the only one playing, and so that contributes to how you play. But Scotty Barnes, rookie of the year, 49% from the floor and 30% on threes, which people say his 3-point shot had to get better. Second year though, he was 34% on threes, you know, or from the field, and 28% on from threes. And so people said, he's a bust now. He's no good. And then this year he turns around, shoots 48% from the floor and 34% on threes. Well, he made the All-Star team, but he started the year really good on threes. So that 34% was dipping. He went way down since like the All-Star game. His 3-point percentage has. Jabari Smith Jr., who I really like coming out of the draft, he had a terrible rookie year shooting, 40% even, not 41%, 40% and 30% on threes. And he was the best shooter in the draft, I thought. He's 6'10", and he could just shoot it. And I thought maybe he didn't have that much he could do off the dribble. But then he turned around this year. He's shooting 45% and 36% on threes, which I still expect to get much better. So Banchero shot 42% from the floor and 29% from three his rookie year. He got rookie of the year, and that's not very good shooting. But even then, within that year, I know that in January, Paolo Banchero, his rookie of the year season, shot 11% for the whole month of January on threes. And he only shot 29% for the whole season. So he won the award because he kind of tailed off because he had a bad streak, just like Jaden Ivey's having. So, but this year he's shooting 47% from the floor and 36% on threes, which I think that's gone down. Keegan Murray, who I loved, I didn't want to draft him necessarily, but I would love to have him now. He shot 45% his rookie year and 41% on threes. Phenomenal. This year he's shooting 46% from the floor. He's taking more twos, but he's only shooting 35%. But that's way up. He struggled for like at least a month and a half at the beginning of the season, and he is a lights out shooter. Benedict Mathurin, he started out his rookie season on fire. He shot at least 45% for the first 2 months maybe of his rookie year, and then he went way down to 32%. He finished overall shooting 32%. So that means the second part of his year, he shot really bad. And then this year, he's shooting 45% from twos and 37% on threes, which he's been hurt. Scoot Henderson was ridiculously terrible at the beginning of the year. He was down there shooting like in the threes like Asar, but he's up to only 38% from the floor, but it's way better than it was, and he's shooting 30% on threes. So anyway, there's just a lot of players. There's examples of that all over where guys even go up and down during the season. James Harden, Hall of Fame James Harden, he has had a up and down roller coaster ride his season. He's playing terrible now. His team was terrible. So his team started out bad. Everybody said they can't work with Harden. And then all of a sudden they win like 26 they win 26 and lose 5 like in a stretch. And everybody's saying, oh, scared of them in the playoffs, and they're one of the best teams. And then they took a big nosedive, and then Harden got hurt, and then Harden came back and never played quite the same. So there's just a lot of things that go, and a lot of players, and like I said, a lot of teams, except our Pistons, have stayed down. There's a lot of teams that look really good for stretches, and then the Houston Rockets, they started out great, and then they just started to kind of fall off, and they were going to be a lottery team, and then all of a sudden, they won 10 in a row, and that's even with some guys hurt, and so, yeah, they got it going right now. So anyway, have you ever noticed Monty Williams, if you listen to his press conference, I think he has allergies. He's always like sniffling right between every sentence. I mean, it's not a criticism. It's not making fun of him. It's just a thing. I just wondered if anybody had noticed that. But anyway, Metu tonight played good. Another solid game for him. Played 32 minutes, 3 for 8, not great shooting, 1 for 3, 1 for 1 from the line, but he had 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, and 2 turnovers, and 8 points. So he's had 2 decent games in a row. He's still, we just needed somebody to shoot a little bit better. We just had a lot of guys that, didn't shoot well. So, Woma had played 29 minutes, 1 for 3. He shot just threes, 1 for 3 on threes, 0 for 2 from the line. And I thought he's a better shooter than that. He came out of Princeton. He's really smart. You got to be smart to go to Princeton. He was all Ivy League, which there's not many Ivy League players. It's not quite as high level of competition, but he they played really great in the tournament, and he was their best player. And he one of the things that he was phenomenal at was passing, but I guess he doesn't really touch the ball that much on our team. But he had 4 rebounds and only 3 points. But he guarded Anthony Edwards, so I was kind of looking forward to seeing Anthony Edwards make some plays. But he just recently had one of the best blocks in NBA history and one of the best dunks in NBA history. And he held him to 4. He was 4 for 11, and of course he wasn't guarding him all the time, but he was 4 for 11 and 1 for 4 on threes. He scored only 9 points, and he's, I listen to all kinds of NBA podcasts and things on TV, and everybody's saying how he's going to be the face of the league or one of the best players in the league and all NBA, and he just did a good job on him. So Duran, 25 minutes. Good to see him back after missing a couple games with a bad back. 4 for 6, 3 for 4 from the line, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 turnovers. So again, typical game. He's done this all year. He usually gets a few more points and a few more rebounds, but he played a few less minutes. So anyway, he had 11 points, and his passes that he's either nonchalant or trying to make a tricky pass that he shouldn't and force it, and that's how he gets his turnovers. So Cade, 29 minutes and 11 for 23. So I really want to talk about this. So 11 for 23 is good. It's really good, but there were 2 shots that he took in the first half. The shot clock is running out. He happens to be having the ball in his hands, and there's nothing he can do. He's got a guy all over him, and so he has to kind of jump backwards and jerk the shot back and just fling it towards the rim to try to get it off the rim before the shot clock goes off. So there's been talk, and I think I mentioned it before, by people, and I think it's a great idea that guys in the NBA, if they launch a half court shot, that it doesn't count against their shooting percentage, because some guys intentionally take one extra dribble and don't try to take the shot, or if they would have been in Cade's situation and try to fling it up there when you have basically no chance of making it. The thing about it is if you can fling it up there and get it on the rim, your team has a chance to get an offensive rebound. Actually, you have a better chance of getting an offensive rebound than if you shot a normal shot, because the ball is probably going to shoot off the rim out further where there's more offensive players. But anyway, he was 3 for 8 on threes. So again, he would have been 11 for 21 if he hadn't shot those 2, and he was 3 for 8 on threes. So he would have been 3 for 6 on threes if he hadn't taken those 2 desperation shots. But 7 for 8 from the free throw line. He only had 1 rebound and only 2 assists. He had a few assists that were either missed shots or guys got fouled. They would have had an easy shot based off his pass, but they got fouled, so they didn't make the shot, so they got 2 free throws, but you don't get an assist for that. So, but he only had 1 turnover. Like I said, 32 points. So it's fun to watch him go. Sasser, 31 minutes, and again up and down. He was down tonight, 2 for 9 and 1 for 5 on threes. So he's inconsistent. 2 for 2 on free throws, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 turnovers with 7 points. Wiseman, good game, 21 points, 2 for 4, 3 for 4 on free throws, 4 rebounds, 7 points. So Wiseman, he's been playing really good since, the last 11 games. He's averaging over 11 points, over 7 or 8 rebounds, and shooting like 60% over the last 11 games. So he's getting his confidence, and he's getting opportunities, and he's performing. So Troy Brown Jr., 29 minutes, 2 for 8, 1 for 4 on threes, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 points. He plays hard, but he hasn't shot well. And again, he goes 2 for 8, and Sasser goes 2 for 9, and Fournier goes 0 for 6, and so that's the struggle. That's why we end up with, only 91 points. So hopefully we get some guys back. And again, I would love to get those guys back. But we shot 41%. They shot 52%. But neither team shot good from the 3. So that's what kept us in the game. They're a good 3-point shooting team, but they were bad from the 3. And we got smoked by Boston and the Knicks shooting threes. And was our defense better, or did they just have an off night? I don't know. But we still got crushed. Points in the paint were 30 to 34, and points off turnovers we got beat 21 to to 11, even though we only had like 11 turnovers, so that's not bad. So um, Naz Reid, who got to play, Karl Anthony Towns is out, and so he got to play more and do some stuff. But anyway, I got some fun things I got to talk about, and I know if there's anybody still listening, um, somebody talked about Darko Milicic that we took in the draft with the second pick, and that we could have taken Carmelo or Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh were all taken after Darko. But Darko, a lot of it, most general managers in the NBA, from what I've read, would have taken him. And he had a terrible amount of bad luck. So if he were playing in the game today, it would be all changed because he wanted to play out at the 3-point line and he could shoot threes. I watched him shoot them all the time warming up. So I went to a lot of games back then, and I would get there early every game and I would watch guys shoot. And he could make threes all day, and he was a freak athlete, and he was 7 foot tall, and he just had a bad career. I mean, they called him the human victory cigar because the only time he got to play was when we were blowing teams out, and Larry Brown hated him and wanted to put him with his butt to the basket. So the NBA gets completely changed. You feel bad for guys because guys that want to play down low with their back to the basket nowadays, they would have been great back then, but now they're not great because people just don't do it anymore. But there was some controversy. I heard a podcast where they were ripping on Darko because Darko was complaining that that Rasheed Wallace and those guys, he was a rookie. So he's 19 years old, flies across the ocean, doesn't know anybody in the United States. He doesn't know anything about the NBA. He doesn't know anything about America. And this kid is thrown in there, and then he has a coach that doesn't like him and makes him play a way that he's never played in his life. And so anyway, he said that those guys, he wished they would have helped him get in the gym and practice instead of taking him out to clubs all the time. Well, I'm going to tell you this. People love Rasheed. I love Rasheed. And Rasheed was a great player, but Rasheed so much underperformed in his career. I would go to games before every game. I went to so many games with the going to work team over those years. I had many season ticket plans. One year I had a 20 game plan. I went to every single playoff game in '04. Every round of every home game, playoff game. Rasheed would get out there. He wouldn't. A lot of guys would go to work and work hard, and I see that with the Piston players even now. They get out before the game and they get in work to get better. Ivey works his butt off. Asar works his butt off before games. Cade does. But anyway, Rasheed, what does he do? He spent the whole time, this is serious, shooting left-handed three-pointers. He's right-handed. And instead of working to get better, and he didn't care if he scored. He really didn't. People always act like, oh yeah, he was unselfish. He just didn't. He didn't really care about scoring. He was talented. He could have been so much better. He did a lot of things good defensively, but people are dissing on Darko for what he said, that kind of complaining that those guys, and they said that you can't use those guys for a scapegoat. But he's a 19-year-old kid from another country, doesn't know what's going on, and they could have helped him. But if he would have been in today's NBA, I'm going to tell you, things would have been different. He could handle the ball. He could do a lot of things. He was a freak athlete, and he was 7 foot tall, and that's why we drafted him. But it just didn't work out for him. So, yeah, the Pistons are 12-6. The Wizards are 14-58, and they we play them Friday. The Spurs won their 16th game. I think I talked about that. And the Hornets, they might have won again tonight. They had a close game. But I'm going to close with this. Corliss Williamson, he's an assistant coach for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So he was at the game today. And before the game, some of the guys from the Pistons front office and staff presented him with a really nice watch that they gave to all the guys. They had that reunion a few games ago at Little Caesars where they honored the going to work team, the 2004 championship team. But he couldn't make it because his team was playing somewhere else. And so they gave him a Piston coat and that watch that has his name engraved on it and everything. But anyway, Corliss Williamson, 6th man of the year. I loved him. And it was a playoff game where they were playing the Celtics, I think, and it was a big series, and they had won a big game before, and Corliss was one of the stars of the game, and they interviewed him, I think on national TV after the game, and he was wearing a shower cap, and during the interview. So the next game, the next playoff game, my daughter and I go to the game, and we're sitting down in the end of the court, um, closest to the Piston bench, kind of in the corner a little bit. And I made these shirts that said Big Nasty on them because that was his nickname, Big Nasty. So I don't know if everybody knows, he got his nickname Big Nasty when he was 13. He's this big, strong guy. He wasn't a freak athlete, but he could score. He just had moves that he could, you know, score on people and put the ball in the basket. But um, we had we had the shower hats on. I got shower hats for us, so we wore. He's in the middle of the game. There's a timeout. It's a highly contested game. He looks into the crowd, sees us with our Big Nasty shirts and our shower hats, and we were back a ways. We weren't right by the court, and he starts busting up and looks at us and like points at us and waves. So it was pretty cool. So anyway, thank you for listening. Be the reason that somebody feels heard. Go Pistons. Let's beat the Wizards Friday.